Next, I'd like to talk about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is, what if you're 50 years old and you haven't saved any money? Or, maybe you tried to do the right thing when you were young and you took out all the money because you wanted to start a business like I did at one point in time, or maybe you took out your money because you wanted to buy a house like some people that I know did. And so, what's realistically going to become of you? I mean, is there any hope at all? So, obviously, the easiest way out of this predicament is just to make so much money that you can solve this problem through brute force. But let's say that we're not doing that. The other thing that I'm going to bake in here is that your raises as you get older tend to be closer to just like cost of living increases unless you get a promotion. So what I'm going to do here again, because we like our models to be conservative, is say that our raise rate is 2% and it's just going to match the inflation rate. But the other thing is that, realistically, you're not going to make the same amount of money when you're 50 that you did when you came right out of college. So let's increase this person's salary a little bit just for the heck of it. We'll make it $55,000. Again, presuming a college graduate, and this is not making any type of value statement to people who may make less money than this. This is more than the average person in America makes. Maybe I'll try and do some things that address those special circumstances later if people ask. But we'll presume a college educated person who's not making a great living, but they're doing okay. And here we go. So their savings rate, though, is still only 10%. That is probably the biggest problem. But let's run out our numbers, and then let's say that the person gets to age 67. They've saved $284,000. That is just not very much money, right? So let's say we want to figure out what this is times their withdrawal rate, and it's $11,000 if we use the normal withdrawal rate. Oh my goodness, this person's in so much trouble. So what can we do to help this guy out? All right, a couple of things to think about here. One is that I'd love for this person to retire at age 67. For whatever reason, they got themselves into a bind. They're 50 years old and they haven't saved a penny. So retirement at 67, that may just not be realistic for this person. So let's say that this person's going to have to work until they're 70. Now, two things happen by working until you're 70. One is that you give yourself 3 more years here of being able to accumulate money. And the second thing is that your Social Security check actually gets much larger. So if you go to, I believe it's ssa.gov, you can type in all your information. They'll actually tell you an estimate of what they think your Social Security check's going to be based on the information they've got. So you can get an idea. But it's much larger. It's actually much larger. The amount of money that you get from Social Security is actually much larger if you wait until 70 than if you start collecting immediately at 67. So, couple of ways to look at this. We can wait until we're 70. The other thing is, when you hit 67, your maximum Social Security retirement age, you can go ahead and file for benefits and you can get money, but you're allowed to keep working. And the work that you keep doing doesn't count against you as far as your Social Security check. If you start working prior to and you're collecting Social Security prior to age 67, they start taxing money away from you. They don't want you double dipping. Once you're 67, they say double dip away. You can work and collect your entire Social Security check. So what I'm going to do here to illustrate what's going on here is what I'm going to say is this person works until they're 70, but only you can decide whether this is right for you or not. The Social Security payments are basically based on actuarial tables that the government has based on an average lifetime. So if you are, let's say, for instance, a woman in excellent health, you're probably better off to wait until you're 70 to collect this money. Why is that? Well, you're probably going to live longer than the anticipated lifetime. Now, if you are like me, a male who has had some relatively high stress jobs and eats a diet that is probably appropriate for a toddler with a $20 bill running around a carnival, I'm probably not going to live the average expected lifetime for an American. And so collecting earlier probably works out a little bit better for me. So, but what I'm going to suggest here is you can keep working. you're 67 years old and you can keep working and collect that Social Security money, it doesn't mean you have to spend it. So what you can do is spend your Social Security money to replace a portion of your income, but then increase your savings rate. Okay, so here the first thing I'm going to say is that let's go ahead and increase this savings rate so that right now they're saving 10% of their money. If they get another, I don't know, $25,000 a year in Social Security money, then they can put that money into their savings. So we do that for 3 years, and still, it's problematic. Let's see here. What we're going to do is see if we can ever get this number to where we can really retire. All right, so now our savings would provide us with $20,000 a year, and adjusted for inflation is only $14,000 a year. It's like $1,000 a month. Okay, so that's still not really getting the job done for us. Okay, well, what else can we do? The biggest problem here is that we're 50 years old and we think we can retire by saving 10% of our income. Well, that was the ground rules if you start saving when you're young. We did not do that here. So let's bump up the savings rate. Let's see where moving it to 12% gets us. Okay, so just increasing it by 12%, that gave us a couple more $1,000. Well, let's say maybe 15%. Can we put in 15%? Okay, 15%. Okay, almost $30,000 a year. So 30,000 plus $25,000 in Social Security benefits. And I don't know, I mean, we're not replacing a lot of our income, but we're doing okay, right? And so this realistically is a scenario you need to be looking at if you're at this point in your life and you haven't saved any money, is that huge giant retirement that we were looking at where you're retiring on 6 figures and you've got a perpetuity with growth. That's probably not your retirement here. The other thing is that because you're retiring with barely enough money to retire, you can't leave all this stuff all in S&P 500 index funds, because if you get a couple bumps in the road, you're just never going to retire. So it's an ugly picture. Retirement is still possible. It's not going to be as nice. And again, because now you can't keep all of your money in equities, you got to transition a lot more of it into bond funds and things like that, then this amount that you're going to get as a return on your investment is going to be much lower. So you got this. The other thing is that, you can keep working. You probably don't like that idea, but here, for instance, I have a relative that worked until he was 73, and the reason was he wanted to enjoy a long retirement, and he wanted to work as long as he could work. So he worked until he was 73. If you do that, then this picture starts changing pretty dramatically. So there, it's like another $12,000 a year there. So you can do that if you want. We would go ahead and adjust the Social Security thing there too. So again, this is using that Social Security trick where we collect Social Security and just put all of the money into our funds. Now, the other thing to keep in mind here, though, is if you're really going to work this long, you should probably defer collecting Social Security. Probably defer it and wait, because again, the Social Security check starts getting much, much, much larger. So if you were going to work until you're 73 anyway, you probably want to wait to file for Social Security. So there you go. Again, the options start getting a lot less attractive. This fairy tale ending is not quite so fairy tale at this point, but it's not like a retirement's impossible. So, $38,000 a year, adjusted for inflation, $24,000 a year. This person's going to have to retire on $50,000 a year or something like that. Maybe along the way they picked up a pension or something like that, but it gets difficult. Even increasing your savings rate, like our previous exercises showed, to 20%. It affects the calculus a little bit, but, nothing is going to take the place of having saved a lot of money early in life. So this is it. I wish I had better news on this, but this is everything that I can come up with. So again, you can collect Social Security while you work. Again, just take an honest assessment of how long you think you're going to live, and regardless of what you guess, it's probably not going to be correct anyway. You're just guessing at that point, but The other thing to point out is that the advantage to waiting until you're 70 is, I heard somebody express this as Social Security is insurance, and it's insurance against the idea that you're going to live a very long time. All right, dying early from a financial standpoint is great. Your kids get this giant inheritance and whatever. And you know what? You're gonna be passed away, so you're not gonna notice it. And if you have spiritual beliefs, then maybe you'll be in a better place. Okay, the worst thing that can happen is that you live a long, long, long time, but you don't have the money to sustain yourself in retirement. Then all of a sudden you're living in poverty, or you're reliant on your children for money that it takes to keep you alive. People find themselves in this position. There's no shame in it, but again, Social Security is insurance, and in this case, it's insurance against living a long, long, long time. So if you live a long time, but you have a big, big, big Social Security benefit, then that's going to help you. So waiting to file, that is definitely the advantage of it. Again, I probably will file when I'm 67. I don't expect that I'm going to live, to the average age of an American working person. But that the risk that I run is that if I live a long time, I may outlive my money and may have waited until I'm 70, because again, the benefit that you get by waiting till 70 is much bigger. That's it for this one.